relates to carpet. Kate, I have that up. Have you?
Okay, I do too. You could. Do you want me to read it or go ahead?
Do you have it on the list?
Yes, I don't. Well, I can read it. It's right in front of me in the thing. So okay. I'll read.
Yeah, I don't recall it. I don't recall hearing it at the commission.
Okay, it's pretty quick. So Joanne Brash, Carpet Product Stewardship Council. The California Product Stewardship Council has representation on the Carpet Advisory Committee, has listened to the Commission Market Development Committee meetings, and read the final proposal for carpet stewardship improvement. These public comments are on behalf of CPSC. We thank the commissioners for the thoughtful and detailed proposal and support the final recommendations provided for carpet stewardship in California. Chemicals of concern, such as PFAS, should be prioritized in policy and programmatic recommendations to protect human and environmental health, and at the very least, if not banned, should be disclosed to consumers.
Okay. So yeah, we've received a lot of comments. There was also a comment from CARE asking for more time to respond. But as of this morning, we had nothing new since Eric Nelson's comments. So, yeah, Ray, I think there's a couple of things that were raised. One is the integration of all flooring with carpet, and as we've talked about this, it's become clear that other flooring is getting a larger market share. So the carpet that gets pulled out lacks the financial resources associated with the purchase of new carpet. So it's kind of like a situation we had some years ago with the CRT's cathode ray tube devices, where manufacturers went to flat screen, and for a while there was a lack of revenue to come in to handle the backlog. So kind of a potential similar issue here as other flooring gets a bigger market share, that other flooring isn't paying into the program, so carpet still has to handle the same or increasing amounts of material with less revenue. Then there's the issue about some of the other flooring, and particularly flooring that's vinyl-based, that's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to recycle at least under current conditions. So that's one item that's been on our waiting list for a while, is to talk about the addition of all flooring. And I'm wondering if it might be time to do that now under the carpet discussion. Any thoughts? Sarah?
I guess I don't know that I would put all flooring under this program necessarily. I'm not saying that it doesn't need a program, but this has been a pretty controversial program at best. And if it were like a fully functioning program that worked well, I'd say, maybe that is something that just throw material into. But at this point, I don't think it's a program that's successful enough to do that. That's my thought on that. The other thing is that the vinyl flooring especially has, maybe it can't be recycled, but it can certainly be reused. There's a minimum content requirement that is an option for that kind of flooring that is not necessarily an option under the carpet program. And I mean, it's something that's happening now. There are companies that take it back and reuse it. They'll even take credit cards, and other companies with vinyl flooring. So it's a process that's actually being used. And so it's complicated as far as, do we talk about it together or not together? One thing that we might consider, though, is that maybe we do, I think that it's integrated to a point where I don't know that we can send the carpet program without looking at the other flooring issues. So maybe it's something that we put on the back burner. Maybe we're not ready to send the carpet yet. Maybe we should flesh out some of the other flooring as well and take the time to put it all together.
I'm gonna let Heidi jump in the queue, because she and I have worked on this, and it looks like she's.
Thank you, Chair Davis. So just to review this quickly, there's a couple things that have come to light. One is the carpet. First of all, if we add flooring, that does not mean the program needs to stay the same, and that's actually not what we're proposing. So I do want to clarify. There's been some clarity in thinking and that we need to think through here, but clearly the program as it's been set up has been a problem. Everybody acknowledges that. And so that's one of the things that I've actually outlined in a change of this entire proposal, is that we not only just include all flooring to make this more fair and level playing field, and make sure it's all safe by banning PFAS and making sure that the Department of Consumer Affairs can test both carpet and padding, but that we actually look at restructuring the entire stewardship program so that I've always said from the beginning, I didn't like this being set up where the producers control California money basically in another state. It's not their money, it's consumer money. And it, to me, should never have been handed to an industry group. I think it needs to be brought back to California, put in a trust, and have an oversight board that is made up of California waste haulers, California carpet producers and recyclers and collectors. And yes, we want other producers from out of state, but they don't have a controlling interest over this program. The people that have the controlling interest over the public fee money are Californians that are in the system that care about it. So that's something that we've changed in an outline that I just uploaded actually to Google. Sorry, I was moving this weekend, so it was I didn't get to it earlier. And that's how we can protect. And then we can also look to, we now have a situation where most carpet, 90% of it basically, now has a market from residential carpet, and maybe 40% of commercial, but commercial is only 30% of the carpet. So we now have hungry facilities in California. We've already got the market and they aren't getting the carpet. They're starving. And if we don't change that quickly, we could lose the little infrastructure we have built. So if we don't do something, something will happen, and it may not be good. We may lose some of the infrastructure we've already built. So if I'm happy to show John the 6 bullets. Commissioner Davis and I talked this morning about maybe getting your review and discussion on these 6 bullets that this could be reformatted, this whole proposal. And if we can agree on that, then John and I can go back and rewrite this if you agree with the outline that we can show you. But I did just upload it in the Google Docs, and I'm happy to go over it if you like.
So while you get ready to do that, Heidi, Ann Schneider and Eric Potashner also had asked the comments. So why don't we hear their comments?
I appreciate what that. Oh, I'm sorry, Chair Sanborn, thank you. I pulled up the document. I see lots of 1, 2 through 12, so just tell us where. My only question then was, as a house with all wooden floors and one room that's carpeted, every room has area rugs. Where do area rugs fit? So you don't have to answer it, but if it fits in there, that's how my wooden house is going.
That's fine. They could be in. I think most of the carpets are plastic, so some are natural. But the way I've written it is natural flooring, hardwood, natural wood, and then the natural carpets, like the pure wool carpets, things that don't have chemicals, et cetera, could be exempt from this program.
Okay. I'm looking at getting rid of 2, and I'm not sure in the current thrift store world that there's a place for these to go. So I've got, just as me as one household representing 40 million people, we're all going to have that similar problem, where to move this stuff. So thank you for that. And they have pads too. It's not the same pads as an area carpet, or I mean as a wall-to-wall carpet, but I have 3 different kinds of pads on all the area rugs. So thank you.
Eric Potashner.
Yeah, it's very similar to Commissioner Schneider's question. So looking at the waste characterization report from Cal Recycle of what's getting into the landfill, and they seem to exclude woven rugs And I'm just trying to figure out if we're going to bring in more floor types into a program. Do we have data that shows that these other flooring types are contributing to a problem right now? Because I'm a little gun shy to do it just because I saw what happened with SB 54, where the single-use plastics industry claimed that, hey, we need fairness, we need to go across all material types, and then it ended up kind of blowing up the bill just because you had materials that, like such as aluminum and glass, that were, performing at a different threshold than single-use plastic, and then it became equity questions around that. I don't know what we're doing if we bring in everybody, because I don't know what the scope of the problem for the non-carpet materials. That said, I do think like a PFAS ban across all product types makes sense.
Sanborn, do you want to respond?
Yeah. So the carpet industry has actually been, and others in the industry have actually said that we should expand to all flooring. The reason is that their complaint has been that adding the fee just to carpet has been the cause of driving people to the vinyl flooring types. And that flooring type is growing very quickly in the market. And some of these companies make both carpet and these vinyl flooring types. And as we know, vinyl flooring also has some chemicals that we might want to test and make sure that they are safe as well. And again, then that means it impacts our safety of our employees, what's leachate testing, et cetera. So I think we're going to have to go, instead of product by product, we're going to need to go more of category by category in order to have equity in the system. Because right now, the vinyl floorings are growing in the market, and there's like no controls. But I feel like this could be studied more certainly, but would it tell us anything that we would need to know that would change whether we should have all flooring in the system? We need flooring, but if it's non-natural, is it safe? Is it recyclable? And are they paying their fair share of the freight? And that's really what it comes down to. And again, the legislature will do a lot of the work on this. This clearly is a legislative proposal, and will require a lot of hearings and a lot of discussion.
So, two things before we dive into it. I think the issue of rugs to me are more fall in the textile category. They're not fixed, right? They're not a fixture. So like a carpet is tacked down onto the floor, a rug can be picked up and laundered, and so, but that's just my view of it. If we start getting into the rugs, and we get into doormats and all these other things that are not fixed, and I think that's a distinction that for me would be helpful. And then secondly, we may, after we have this discussion, we may want to go back and look at what's in the current language, with the thought that the current language might have applicability to the existing program, and then we're talking about things that are expanding or outside the existing program. So we might end up with two recommendations, particularly if we become more comprehensive with other flooring types. So just a thought, and I see Commissioner Snyder wanting to respond.
Chair Davis, I hear what you're saying about carpet area rugs not being a fixture. So I get that. But I also, just to play devil's advocate, if I'm your common American or common Californian, a carpet is a carpet, whether it's wall to wall or if it's not. Now, if we're going to go back and look at textiles marketplace somewhere over the next 6 months, great. But I think, and maybe the collection system is different. I'm not sure. Maybe the recycling committee is looking at that. But I try to put everything we're doing through the eyes of someone who does not work in this field and what makes sense to them.
And one thing we could do to resolve this, go back and look at the definition of carpet under the existing statutes, and because there is a fee associated with that, and I'm not sure it's collected on area roads, for example. So I think there's a legislative distinction already. But let's keep that as an open question. But yeah, and I absolutely, we should be talking about textiles and particularly clothing, but all the other textiles that end up being donated and some with very short remaining useful life.
Yes.
So, I'm trying to, we'll talk about that one later, but I think that's, to me, there's a lot of impacts on the reuse industry that we need to be looking at from the market development side. Heidi, do you want to go through your bullets here?
Sure. So the first is to expand the carpet stewardship program to include all non-natural flooring types. And again, hammering out definitions is not something we have time to do at the commission. It's just basically the concept is, and the intent is, if it's a non-natural flooring, not, just wood or wool, and it has chemicals and other additives, then it would be in the program. So it would be a flooring stewardship program, basically. The second item is to ban the sale of any flooring product, carpet, pad, or any type of flooring that contains the PFAS chemicals, the forever chemicals that are proving to be so dangerous and basically in all of us. Number 3 is requiring all non-natural flooring and padding to be tested for safety by the Department of Consumer Affairs. They currently have, a testing program for carpet, but not for padding. And a lot of the recycled padding I'm hearing is coming from recycled upholstery, which was required to include PFAS at one point and other chemicals. So it would just make sense that all flooring, including the vinyl and others, if people and babies are crawling around on it, and pets are down there with their nose in it all the time, that we should be testing those as well. The fourth thing is the stewardship program should change in composition. This is, I think, part of the major problem with this program is that there's currently 2 large companies that basically have 51% plus of the vote on the care board. And I don't know, and they're out of state. So that we have one program for all flooring. It could be either a nonprofit C3 or a private business that would have to follow all the rules of a C3 to be transparent, accountable, CalRecycle can enforce it, etc. Shall be comprised of primarily California-based stakeholders, including representing producers, collectors, transporters, sorters, disposal companies, unions, local government, retailers, and shall not have a majority control by producers. Again, because this is a consumer fee program. The producers are not paying directly into the program and should not have control of public fee money, especially when that money is brought out of state. 5, and in fact, we could put it in a trust. That's one of the ideas we had in order to protect it from government rating or from anybody else rating that fund for anything other than the program. We could put it in a trust that's managed by this group. 5 is that the program must provide reasonable compensation to the installers and collector sorters for their, and others, it could be for their labor and expenses to handle the material. The reason we're only getting 27% of the material when 90% of residential carpet is now recyclable is because the program is not paying for the people who touch the carpet for the time that it takes to keep it dry, roll it up, keep it clean, dry, roll it up properly with the backing out, and then transport it to a recycling center. Until that changes, we are not going to see a huge increase in collection and getting this to the right facilities. Then the last thing is to ban the disposal of carpet, and we should say really all flooring in California, well, actually carpet in California without first being sent through qualified sorters. That is because right now, carpet, as I said, is 90% basically recyclable on the residential side, 40% or so on the commercial side. The other flooring types, as far as I know, there is nothing we can do with vinyl flooring, as far as I know. And other flooring types that would have to be discussed, and maybe we could put intent language that, again, with a truly visible fee program that is not totally managed by the producers, we could have the intent that there's more authority for the state agencies to demand that these products increase recycled content, recyclability, and reduce toxics. Everything that helps us close the loop on a circular economy. So with that, I'm happy to take questions.
We have 2 public comments. Let's hear those.
Perfect. Thanks, Chair Davis. Because the first one, and I can describe it, is from Randy Pollock. Can you please let us know what is the most current document that is being discussed on carpet? Please point out what changes were made to the document this morning that is difficult to follow. And I can just show Randy, sorry, this was dropped by Chair Sanborn into the market development meeting folder this morning. So I have just clicked on this. So for the public, this should be in the today's meeting folder. This second comment is from Gail Bryce. Could you please clarify the committee process? Carpet was passed out of the committee to the commission. There was not time to address carpet at the commission, so I thought the final proposal would be addressed there. With this work being done by the committee today, would any changes replace the proposal that is currently in the commission? And those have been published.
Can I address that?
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, so we heard multiple people from the carpet industry, including Gail, ask for a delay, which we didn't even take it up. I purposely put it towards the back of the list for the full commission to hear because we had heard people didn't have enough time. So we gave it until this morning to hear it again. And we have new information. So we updated and decided instead of updating the whole proposal, we would simply present it to the committee and the stakeholders in this outline form and let everybody give us feedback. And then if we get commission or committee approval to move this, we'd have to go, John and I, to flesh this all out. And we tried to do it really quickly because obviously we want time for the stakeholders to review it prior to the commission meeting on the 16th. But this is what we would frame it around. I hope that
I think the process at this committee has always been to revisit any of our proposals, in particularly the ones that have not yet been agreed upon at the commission. So, but ultimately, something around this topic is going to go to the commission. It may well be modified from what was sent last time, based on our discussion today. So, Mr. Potashin.
Just from my comfort level, I feel a lot more confident in the recommendations around banning PFAS and material health of this. The composition of the stewardship program, how enforcement, those are all things that, at least for me, I don't know if I've gotten enough information or we've talked about enough from outside of this department. Like, I may feel more comfortable if we present this to the full commission, if we sort of bifurcate these two things. These are things we absolutely 100% are ready to push forward. These are things that they're still, I don't know if debate's the right word, but I have questions because I don't feel I know enough about it right now on actually how the care program is structured and how the money needs to flow.
And Schneider.
A question for Commissioner Sanborn. When you talked about the other flooring types and recycled content, if you're putting in a hardwood floor, would the equivalent then be that it's sustainably harvested or from a green forest certified or something like that?
Well, that we were planning to exempt the natural flooring in the wood. So if I didn't,
okay,
I mean,
so
people
okay.
can already look if that's labeled with sustainable forest management practices. There's several certifications, I believe, for that. Okay. And then you've of course got the lacquers. Some of them are more dangerous than others, but basically wood is wood. So as far as the recyclability and compostability, I don't know if that's something we're ready to go down.
Okay, and tile floors, where would tile go? Well,
that's an excellent question. We'd have to think about that. Does tile, what kind of tile? Is it vinyl tile? Is it ceramic tile? And this is why I say as a commission, we do not have the time, the resources to do like the research that, for example, legislative committee would do, or getting, technical assistance from Cal Recycle or DTSC to help them craft the final language. We can give general intent language and general concepts. They will flesh this all out. And, but we aren't writing bills.
I guess you have a little more faith that they will flesh it all out than if we do a little bit of thinking here, but I'm okay with that. In terms of where should Californians' money stay, I agree. I think Californians' money should stay in California. So, but maybe to help this as we move forward is to see, of all of similar programs, how much of the money leaves us, how much of it, let me rephrase, is this process, the way this program is set up, unique in that it is managed by people outside of California, even though it's California money, versus all of the other programs where the money stays in California and is managed by Californians? Maybe that might help make the sale easier.
I'll give you this comparison. So the visible fee programs that we currently have, we have internalized costs, which are mercury thermostats and pharmaceuticals and sharps, which hasn't actually started working at the statewide level yet, but it works at the county level. The visible fee programs include paint, carpet, which were both passed in 2010, and mattresses passed in 2013. Paint is out of state. They're, I believe, based in DC, which is where their money is. But it's a hybrid model of funding where the producers actually pay into the pot before it's put as a visible fee on the paint. So it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. Carpet, it's purely visible fee back into a pot. And the carpet industry is based in Dalton, Georgia. So that's where I believe most of the money is. Then on mattresses, their association's based in DC. So I suspect that's where it is as well. We passed a bill with carpet that actually made sure that that money, if this stewardship program was somehow to be canceled and Cal Recycle chose to do that and do another program, that they had a method to get that money back. We actually didn't have in law any kind of concept of how to get that money returned to California to fund the next stewardship program. I still worry with mattresses and paint. Maybe that needs to be looked at in the legislation. But for this program, which has had the most problems, this is the one that I think we need to dig the most into and make sure it's working better, especially when we've had major companies invest millions of dollars in California infrastructure and they're teetering because they can't get enough carpet. That is simply outrageous when we're only collecting about 27% of it. That's the timeliness of this particular issue. And I totally understand Commissioner Potashner's issues. PFAS are pretty simple. That's an easy one, I think. But I also think testing by Consumer Affairs should be an easy one to make sure all flooring is safe for everybody in the waste hauling industry and the recycling system. But if we don't do something immediately to get more carpet collected and sent to the recyclers, we could lose the infrastructure we've had built. That's what I really worry about right now.
So we do have another public comment, and then Ann, do you want to respond now, or you want to?
No, I just wanted to say thank you. I was doing it okay.
Okay. All right. Go ahead with the comment, and then.
The comment is from Randy Pollock, and it says, you are asking for feedback, but we have not seen this proposal to just now. We believe more time is needed for comment. And I have published that. Yeah,
and again, whatever might come out of this committee will go to the commission. So, and then it'd be heard at least 2 times at the commission. Taken, Mr. Potashner.
Just one suggested amendment on the testing piece, because we dealt with this in the compostable packaging for organics. Testing of products by the state seems to be something that could be a huge programmatic increase, and maybe something they have or may not have the capability of doing. What we ended up with was a disclosure requirement on compostable packaging to the appropriate agency. So could we throw in testing and or disclosure of all the constituents in the material? It may just be an easier way for the state to get their arms around this. If they see something that's on a list that shouldn't be on there, then they can flag it versus having to test every single material type.
Yeah, I think if something can be verified, that's, whether it is or at least that it's verifiable and available. And one of it actually, as we were talking about the financial arrangements with CARE, it's one of the concerns I always had as a member of the Carpet Advisory Committee. CARE, the California funds are not CARE funds. They're treated as a separate fund managed by CARE, but the money doesn't go directly to CARE. So the funds are treated under the IRS rules as public money. And yet, as those of us who work in local government would recognize, it's a big difference in how the funds are managed. We don't know how much is going to any individual or any company out of the CARE funds. In at least California public agencies, we know, where the checks are going and who's getting paid from money. So I think it's one of the differences maybe as we discuss this is bringing the accountability under California statute. There is transparency and accountability on 501c3s, as Committee Member Sanborn's language suggests under number 4. But there's also a big difference on California public money versus what IRS classifies as public funds. So just another thought. And again, for those of us who, I'm comfortable telling where the funds from my organization go. That's the way we operate in California, and yet we don't really have that kind of visibility now. And so that's probably it's certainly not something that the commission or this committee is going to resolve. But it's always been a disappointment to me that you can't track the expenditures and find out where the money's going under the program the way it's structured right now. So, Well, let's. How do you want to proceed? Do you want to go back and look at the existing proposal in light of this? I'm starting to think this is a separate proposal. That there were items that we flagged on the current proposal that are very specific to the CARE program, and what we have here is a flooring program that kind of incorporates carpet as one of the flooring materials, and yet at the same time we have an existing program that we were prepared to make recommendations about. At least one of those recommendations moved into carpet padding, so might be more appropriate to move over here. But how do you want to proceed?
I'll make a proposal that we separate what we've talked about the most and what I think is most urgent at keeping the carpet program functional and safe. And that is number 1, number 2, banning the sale of the products that have the PFAS. 3, requiring all flooring and padding be tested by Department of Consumer Affairs. And I did want to add that I actually sit on the statewide advisory committee. I'm the public member to the Bureau of Household Goods and Services Advisory Council. And they do, I have had a preliminary conversation with Nicholas Oliver. He does test carpet, and they would, like to test pad, is my understanding, and don't have any authority to test padding. And that was an eye-opener for me. I did not know that. So it's not a new thing. They have all the labs. It's not. In fact, John, I think you and I were trying to get a meeting with him today to get some more information there. So we can certainly bring that back. But to me, that would be kind of an easy thing. And again, if it didn't make sense or there was something we didn't know that we couldn't do it, but it would take a legislative change. Then the other thing I would say again is 5 and 6 could be looked at as this preliminary carpet proposal. If we skip the whole thing about changing the program and who's on the board, but the program must provide reasonable compensation to installers, collectors, sorters, et cetera, for the labor and expenses to handle the material. If we do not do that, I do not see us getting more carpet to the recycling facilities next year. And that could be done by CARE. They would just have to put that in their program. And we get compensation from the mattress industry and from others, even on the paint program. They give a quarter for every gallon of paint that gets reused at a HHW facility. It might have even gone up from that number. So there are precedents for that. The other thing is banning the disposal of carpet in California without first being sent through qualified sorters, now that the majority of carpet is recyclable. If it keeps going straight to landfill, we're never going to get it. But I would propose we do at least 1 or 2, 3, and 5, and then add 6 if you're comfortable. And then that would at least give us time to get also more public input on these and keep the rest separate.
So Kate, can you copy 2, 3, 5, and 6, and then open the existing carpet proposal and paste those at the go ahead.
Let me download it to a Word doc.
Okay, got it.
Because, okay, I'm gonna stop sharing screen while I work on that for a hot second. So.
Okay, yeah. So we have an existing proposal with 7 points, and some of those are, I think, are either duplicated or almost captured from the language. And let's compare the two documents. So we're basically taking a couple of these bullets, Committee Member Sanborn, and we're saying let's bring those into a flooring proposal separate from the carpet proposal.
Yeah, it's the first time we've talked about it before, but it's the first time we've actually proposed putting it in the proposal. And if people aren't ready and we need more discussion, that could be a whole, hour of one of our meetings is getting the industry to different flooring manufacturers to come in and get a lot more information before folks are comfortable doing that. I totally understand that.
Okay, great. So Kate, now why don't you bring those 4 items to, thank you. So on page 3 of the carpet proposal, there's our bullets start. There we go. So the first 2 bullets are really reporting language. Just as a reminder, the recyclability becomes a big factor. We thought it would be addressed a couple of months ago, but eventually CARE has to determine highest recyclability material and then begin to report around resin types. So we're suggesting changes to the reporting language to focus on resin types and also their budget. Remember, the language in the statute says that CARE has to raise sufficient money to meet the goals of the program with the fee. So it's always been an issue getting that annual projected budget and relating that to the fee, but now it has to include resin type under recyclability. So the first 2 are very specific to the CARE program. I think then we get into the next set, beginning with number 3, Kate. Yeah, so here we get into concerns about PFAS and toxicity. So why don't you paste the comments, the new language, under 7, paste it down in there so we can look and see, we can jump around. Okay. So I think, so the sale ban, if you go up to 6, is that where? Yeah. It's a, so what I've heard from discussion over time is that some manufacturers have begun to phase out or eliminate the chemicals that are precursors to PFAS. So yeah, so number 5 asks to identify those, and also to identify the manufacturers who continue to sell carpet with PFAS. And number 6, if manufacturers continue to sell carpet, the legislature and governor should ban its sale in the state. Okay. The alternative language is to simply ban the sale of any flooring product containing PFAS. So we go from kind of a voluntary reporting and identification to a ban. How do you want to reconcile the difference here?
You asking me or asking everybody?
I guess, yeah, anybody. Or yeah, since you authored, so number 8, Heidi, is language that you proposed. Do we want to replace 5 and 6 with 8?
Yeah. But we also want to, it's banning the sale, including PFAS, but it's also allowing the testing, because even though there's a ban, doesn't mean it's going to be effective. Especially when it's recycled content.
Yeah,
and if we're promoting recycled content and we're saying we want the state agency by recycle campaign to expand that, I just don't want to promote expansion of purchasing of recycled products that haven't been tested for safety if they could contain PFAS.
Yeah, so the testing language was in the existing proposal was number 7, and it was focused on carpet padding. And it does say general services rather than consumer affairs, so that just needs to get fixed. And it's also allowable rather than required, along the lines of, I think, Mr. Potasher's comment, do we want to require it or do we want to?
Well, that's why we were trying to talk with Nicholas today to see if he had any specifics that would be reasonable to include in here. But I don't know. Again, that the details tend to get hammered out at the legislature, because what they would do is, the first thing they do is ask for technical assistance of Department of Consumer Affairs and get input on how to actually write this thing. And probably with DTSC too, since they're working on this PFAS issue.
Okay. So you'd prefer using the language numbered 8 and 9 rather than the 5, 6, 7 language?
It essentially does the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess it, again, back to Mr. Potasher's comments about the approach taken on the Organics Committee, allows some, not certification, but information from product manufacturers that can be verified, and but not require that that all of it be tested and independently verified.
I'm generally a fan of not putting the fox in charge of the chicken coop. So I generally like third-party certifications, and the state has their own labs. They do testing all day. And if they test it, they'll, we'll get hopefully a good answer that people trust.
Patty, how many different types of carpet and flooring products are there out there? Because that would, maybe this isn't a big issue if there aren't that many.
How many types of carpet and flooring are there?
Yeah. Like, are you saying like all carpet gets one test, or every single carpet manufacturer for all their different lines of carpet gets a test each? I'm just trying to understand the scope.
Well, they would, again, figure out, like, they generally audit. So they would take samples from different brands and different types of flooring. And that's why I wanted to talk to, Nicholas, because I just don't think we need to be that specific. We're giving advice. We're just basically saying, as a commission, we don't think it's a good idea. We continue to sell products with PFAS in them, and we should be testing generally to make sure that they're clean of these things. And if not, that we should know, just like carpet, that they can test for now. The rest of it really gets hammered out between the legislators, the agencies. How do they audit? How do they fund this? And I was trying to get a little bit more detail. We tried to meet with Nicholas last week. We were unable to do that. He was very busy. So hopefully today we can find out, but we can certainly ask, like, how many different types of flooring are there, and how would you test them, and how would you fund this, and do you have enough funding, and all of that, because obviously we all agree funding is key, because if agencies get requirements without funding, it doesn't typically happen, or it'll happen quickly. So we're happy to ask those questions and get back to you.
So I see Sarah Toyota had her hand raised. Apologize.
Thanks. I agree with the stronger language, and I agree that it should be third party as well. Those are a lot of what we're going to do, a lot of what CalRecycle has done without certification, without any real knowledge that things are happening the way they're supposed to, is really undermining a lot of the CalRecycle efforts. So I'm fine with all of that, and I think it's in line with what we've already approved at the commission level with the precautionary principle and getting these out of organics packaging. So I think we're right on line with using the stronger language and having third-party testing.
Okay. Any other thoughts here? I think the question is, do we replace 5, 6, and 7 with 8 and 9? I'm hearing a couple people say yes, and nobody's saying no. Manuel and Ronald, you thought thumbs up? Okay. Yeah. So unless I hear otherwise, why don't you do that, Kate? And then we'll update this as with today's date. So go ahead and strike 5, 6, and 7. And then 8 and 9 become 5 and 6. Yeah. And then the other two comments, or the other two, one, better scroll up, I think, Kate, to find the language. No, it's not. Let's be down. Sorry. I'm going to look at mine. Because we do have language about yeah, there we go. Down. The other up. Down. Yeah. So go up a little bit more just to put all this in the context. Yeah, go up. We have it all. There we go. Okay, so 12 is kind of self-explanatory. I think it's in line with trying to collect the material that's needed for in-state manufacturers, and that it be resin specific. We've got an expanding manufacturing network around nylon carpet, and so I think that's a lot of the early comments we heard were about the shortage of material to feed the nylon facilities. Next one. It's a long one, isn't it? Okay, so this focuses on the installers. And CARE is working with installers and the source of carpet to try to collect from retailers, wholesalers, distribution facilities. Basically, I think the last sentence is saying that if they can't incentivize sufficient collection, then they can't claim they're not meeting their goals due to the lack of collection. So it's collection falls within their purview. So, okay, scroll down. Number 14, CARE should collect carpet at no cost from installers network in order to avoid conflicts with local hauling arrangements or make arrangements with local haulers to deliver some installers loads to a sorter or processor. So this is an issue that's come up from time to time where a carpet collector, it's the same with CMD, as Mr. Potasher knows. You get into issues with franchise prohibitions against charging for collection. So these installer networks, a lot of them have roll-offs there that go to the landfill. How does CARE collect those and not violate franchise? Or how does a franchisee collect it and take it to some place where CARE can receive it? So it's become it's something to resolve, but one way around it clearly is if there's no charge, if CARE is collecting it, then it's outside the franchise language. And so I think 14 is an attempt to work around that by saying let CARE pay for it, and there's no franchise issue. 15 is kind of similar, and we're going to get the other proposed language soon, but collect carpet at no cost from MRFs, landfills, and transfer station, including a hard-to-handle reimbursement, such as done in mattress stewardship programs. So I think when I was drafting that language, I had in mind that the installers network, they're already handling the carpet. So, I'm not sure there needs to be a hard-to-handle reimbursement, but when it shows up on the floor of a transfer station or in a landfill load and we want to pull that out, it's hard to handle. Carpet typically at a landfill gets charged hard to handle if it's a carpet load. So the corollary on 15, of course, is a lot of that carpet's already been damaged or by coming in the collection vehicle and mixed with other materials. So I think Mr. Eric Nelson's comment about requiring that it be handled and looked at rather than a landfill ban makes a lot of sense, because there's some carpet that just isn't going to be suitable for recycling. But let that determination be made. So 16.
A couple of public comments, John.
Yeah. So let's finish looking at. So 16 is when there's an adequate network, then ban the material from landfill disposal. So we probably ought to, Kate, if you want to read the comment, and then we need to bring down the other two remaining items from the new proposal and see how that fits in the language. But I wanted to go over that language because I think it's maybe more detailed than we need.
Sure.
Go with the proposal.
Okay, two. Both are from Gail Bryce. The reason I didn't submit detailed comments to the Market Development Committee was that I thought it was now in commission. Please advise where I should comment on these new proposals. The flooring should be managed by others in a different program and not added to the carpet program. The $200+ million in infrastructure developed for carpet is very specific technology. It would be too easy to have unintended consequences to carpet by combining the programs. Your committee should separate these issues and your recommendations into different programs, with the flooring not run by an industry group. Thank you. Her other comment is the DTSC priority programs has been working on PFAS and carpet for over 3 years due to the complexity of PFAS. They were close to issuing draft regulations prior to COVID-19. The committee should take advantage of their knowledge before proposing issues with major unintended consequences. Those have been published.
you go back up and bring down those the two items on that proposal outline? Yeah. And then let's talk about what we want to do. And I think as far as Gail Bryce's comments, the first one, yeah, again, we'll continue to work on proposals at the committee, but they do go to the commission. So the second comment about DTSC, yeah, DTSC has not issued regulations. Clearly, if they issue regulations, then they become dominant, but they have not. So right now, they've done a profile, which is, I think, enough for us to be concerned. And, so keep going down, Kate. Once you put these 8 and 9 at the bottom, or what was 8 and 9, whatever they are now. Okay. So again, do we want to take, this language is much more intent, doesn't have the detail. Do we want to replace what's in the current? And actually 15 would have compensation to installers and collector sorters. And I guess, my thought is they're already removing carpet. They're handling the carpet. It's part of their work. We really want to be suggesting that they should be compensated for handling the material that they're already handling. So. I think what we're saying right now under 12 is that carpet should be collected from installers at no cost, but it does not include a compensation for labor.
I had my hand up, John. I don't know if you saw it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'd actually like to hear from Commissioner Potashner on this, because we're clearly not getting enough carpet. We've got to incentivize folks in the system, whether it's the installers, the haulers, the collectors, to do it. They touch it already, but they don't necessarily keep it dry or clean or roll it up the way they like it and bring it to a recycler, which is the problem. So I guess what would be the most, I've heard from multiple haulers that it would help them if they got compensation to keep it clean, dry, separated. But I'd love to hear from Recology if that's something that would support getting more carpet to the recyclers from the perspective, or if there's another way to go about it.
I mean, I can only speak to the operations that we run. The issue hasn't been that we don't have the ability to collect it separately. We do we have box trucks in most of our jurisdictions to pick up abandoned waste. Every resident usually gets 1 or 2, 3 bulkhead and pickups a year. So we have the ability to pick up furniture and carpets and everything else and to take it out. The issue we run into is the stewardship programs are unwilling to pay for the cost of that collection because they, my understanding of EPR is one of the pillars is open competition and market, which means they should be able to put out their hauling to bid. Well, we have, unionized workforces with set labor rates, with set requirements on us, on our fleet and everything else that, if you want to use the franchise hauler, then the stewardship program should have to pay what that going rate is, just like any other pickup, and there's been a disconnect there.
So is this language getting to that? Is that enough, or should we edit it? Because that's what we're trying to solve.
I guess the question is reasonable compensation. This isn't. If there's a way to connect the cost of collection to whatever the franchise rate is stronger than just reasonable collection, I think that's what we probably need to explore. Because you just tie into the collection rates of a local jurisdiction, and that's what you're paying for that collection. You use the franchise system.
That makes sense. Maybe we could change this language to say the program must provide compensation at local, I don't know, local rates, going rates, or.
Well, look at number 12. What's in number 12 now, which says either care collect carpet at no cost from installers network, or make arrangements with the local haulers to deliver the loads for processing. So it's, you know, it's either or. If it's collected at no cost, it's outside the franchise. If it's not collected at no cost, it falls within the franchise.
And maybe what we do is change
local
12.
haulers maybe it's local haulers at existing franchise rates if applicable, because that's, you know, it's not cookie cutter. You can't, some places have it or don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's one or the other.
I would support that. And then we could just get rid of 15, right?
Yeah, well, the difference, again, it's this handling the material as opposed to collecting it is different. Handling it in like mattresses, you know, there's a handling fee on mattresses. There's no handling fee on carpet. Or if you're part of CARE's collection network, there is no handling fee. You charge the incoming material to pay for your handling costs. But 12, I think, at least as far as collection, yeah, it resolves it. But there's still this question of handling, which we currently have in number 13 to have a hard to handle reimbursement at MRFs and landfills and transfer stations. And again, I think the thinking was that the installers are already handling the material. We shouldn't be asking CARE to pay the installers to do what they're already doing. So, so I think 12 addresses part of 15, Heidi. But
yeah, Commissioner Schneider's been flagging down.
Yeah.
Sorry. Through the chair, just to play devil's advocate, and having done that in 2 different houses, I took out all the carpet and all the old padding because I could save money then. And then I had a carpet installer come in, and I would have brought the carpet to a transfer state, in both cases, 2 different counties, 2 transfer stations. Because I work in the field, I kept it fairly clean, but it just went onto the floor and got scooped up. Are we considering the mechanism that DIYers use? And maybe that's part of the reason. I mean, if you're wealthy, you're going to pay that extra fee with your new carpet installation for the old carpet removal. But if you're a DIYer or lower income or watching your pennies, whatever, you're going to do as much of the stuff that you can do on your own as you can. At least that's what I've done as I've restored 2 houses.
Yeah. Well, I think under the current proposal, number 13 talks about if you took it to the transfer station, it's going to get handled there. Right now, if you take it to a carpet collection, part of CARE's collection network, you're going to pay in that network to have the carpet accepted because there's no reimbursement for handling the carpet.
Okay.
There's only a collection.
Question would be, and now it's been a number of years, so maybe all of this has improved since then. If I went to a Blue Line transfer or any other location, would there be clear signage that if I left my carpet clean or my pad clean, that I could put it over here as opposed to over there? Tipping floor versus somewhere else?
Yeah, and CARE maintains a map of collection sites. And yeah, it's evident when you get there.
It's probably been a year since I've been. I'm sorry, it's been a year since I've been to Blue Line transfer station, and maybe I just because it wasn't my issue. Didn't look for carpet to the public. Then we'd have to do a better job of educating the public.
There are collection sites, and again, but the collection sites are not reimbursed for handling. The material's hauled off at no charge to the collection site, but there's no reimbursement. So you would have to pay, unlike mattresses where it's free and convenient collection. The carpet, it still depends on payment of a tip fee at the other end. And I think your other option as a do-it-yourself would be to see if you have bulky item collection for that sort of thing. So
and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm also just thinking of how it rolls out, watching the houses currently going through complete remodels right now. Again, everything's in a 40-yarder. By then it's too dirty. Okay. So if we really wanted this stuff collected, then cities might have to do a better job in their permitting process, their new construction permitting process or remodel permitting process, to educate the owner and the contractor to do a better job, to do a separation job. I'm not sure if that fits anywhere in here or it fits more when we talk about construction and demolition.
Yeah, I don't think it fits in this section. So let me ask Committee Member Sanborn, are you okay then with striking 15? And
yes, I think if we update 12 per the discussion we had with Commissioner Potashner, we could do it live here. So if we strike
local
15,
haulers
yeah,
local haulers under existing franchise arrangements or under existing arrangements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, we could also put in this proposal that we're asking Cal Recycle in their oversight to request these things because they're not meeting the recycling rate. This doesn't necessarily have to mean legislation, I think. And maybe that's a question we ask Cal Recycle. So maybe, Kate, if you could send the question back to Cal Recycle, could this requirement be done by Cal Recycle oversight without going to a legislative change? Because this is really urgent that this get addressed in order to get more carpet to these plants and get the recycling rate up, which is our goal of the commission. And the slower legislation obviously is very slow. So I'd like to know if that can be done under their current authority.
Got it. Could this requirement be done by Cal Recycle oversight without going to have a legislative change? And that is in reference to number 12 specifically, or kind of the broader concepts we're discussing.
All of the, I think PFAS, that's got to be legislation unless green chemistry is going to actually do something. I don't know. It's been taking years. I would apply it to the whole proposal, and if any part of it can be done by Cal Recycle without any authority, any additional authority, that would be great to know.
Okay, got it.
Thanks.
Mr. Medrano.
Well, the only thing is that I believe that the banning the material from landfill disposal is probably one that would need some type of legislation. So maybe we could take that off of the whole proposal. I mean, not take it off for here, but take it off on the discussion with Cal Recycle.
Yeah, you're talking about number 14 or what's?
I see 16. 16.
What you see is 16. 14 talks about legislation specifically to ban it. This is a little different because it says it should be banned without first going through sorting. So the other one is just an outright ban, and the other one is a little vague about having an adequate collection. So I think maybe combining 16, eliminating 14 and using 16, yeah.
Would you like?
Yeah, I think on 14 we're just saying once there's a critical mass of collection, there's no reason to send carpet to landfill. But
do you want me to change anything on this, Chair Davis? Sorry, regarding 14 and 16.
Yeah, I think 16 states it more clearly. Okay. okay with that?
They're two different things. I'm sorry, they're two different things. Because one is requiring carpet to go through qualified sorters before it goes to disposal. And the other one is saying it's banned from disposal after we have a qualified network. I prefer actually, because our recycling rates or recyclability rates are so high now, that we just require everything to go through a sorter, because if it goes through a sorter and before it goes to landfill, everything that's recyclable should get pulled out. So maybe we just do that and then not impose the landfill ban or request the landfill ban.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The 15 probably is a better approach than 14.
Yeah. So we would just delete 14?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have another public comment.
Yes, this comment is from Gail Bryce. Just to be clear, number one, I believe addressing PFAS relative to carpet recycling is important. Number two, I don't believe this should be delayed until DTSC passes their priority products regulations. However, number three, I believe the committee should take advantage of the scientific expertise of the DTSC prior to making recommendations regarding PFAS and carpet recycling. Regarding collections, I would highly suggest that the committee invite the two major private carpet collectors in California to address the committee and answer questions to understand their challenges regarding meeting the needs of the carpet processors.
So are we now comfortable with this restated carpet proposal? Do we want to hear from anybody? I think Committee Sanborn and I are going to try to clarify the need at Consumer Affairs and the impact of the recommendation. So we may bring a slightly modified recommendation around that to the commission. But, we had sent this forward earlier. We've made some changes and improvements. So are we okay sending this back as is?
I just have one more comment. I mean, the urgency of this really is important, and I don't know. I'm trying to go through the background again really quick, but I don't really see that stated in there, that there are markets, and if this doesn't get moved, we could use those markets. And I think that's a really important piece of information to have just in general, maybe in the background portion and in that area.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, again, I spent 5 years tracking this on different committees. The markets are there, but they're also heavily subsidized markets, and so it's something that I think CARE struggles with, and they noted in their response to earlier recommendation that it's all one fund, and so as we ask them to put more money toward collection processing, then it does impact their ability to do the other things. But you know, it is a heavily subsidized. There is a market, but it's heavily subsidized. So we can look for some language around that. But it's always been on my mind. You know, it's not a free market, right? This one definitely has had a lot of intervention, and some of the material that results in high recycling, like calcium carbonate, the subsidy for calcium carbonate is 1,700 times the cost of virgin calcium carbonate. So material that costs a penny a pound is being subsidized at 17 cents a pound. So it's there are markets, I agree, but yeah, shifting the pie around makes a big impact. Well, why don't we're scheduled to take a break right now. Why don't we take what did we plan for, 10 minutes? Yeah, why don't we take a 10-minute break? I will look at the existing language and try to come up with something around the urgency to do this, and then we can reconsider that after the break. So. All right.
Thank you. See you in 10.
And we'll come back at 10:40.
John?
Yes. And
Question. I can't remember if it's this committee. No, it must be this one. I'm starting to get information back on refillable bottles. Can we get this on a future agenda, or do you want me to have a report first before putting it on an agenda? Or am I speaking on something not on the agenda?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the outstanding items, and it's a short list.
Okay, excellent. I'll hang on then.
Yeah, I'll just wait. Need one more committee member. Mr. Patashner had to take care of something. He said he will rejoin us. There we go.
Sorry.
And Schneider, you're not on camera, but I believe you're okay. Manuel is back. So,
here we go.
Kate, if you want to show my screen, I'll just real quickly show what I came up with. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes.
Tiny.
So it would be a sentence before we talk about the collection goals to say the continued expansion of recycled carpet markets depends on expanded effective collection. We had already mentioned the need for collection to keep up with demand. So, remember, Toyota, is that what you had in mind, or did you want something more general?
Maybe even more specific, actually. The expansion of, hold on.
Chair Davis, could you zoom in a little bit? Sorry, Commissioner Toyota.
Sorry.
I tried to get in while you were taking a break. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
I think more to the point is that it's not necessarily the expansion of the markets. It's that there's markets out there and the infrastructure is built around having carpet right now. And if they don't get it, just as Commissioner Chair Sanborn said, then those markets, then that infrastructure could collapse at this point. So it's really imperative that this get looked at, especially the part about moving more carpet into the markets. So it's more of not the expansion of the markets, but it's more the markets, the infrastructure that's created for the market is built and ready. And if carpets aren't moved, carpet material isn't moved pretty quickly, then we could lose that.
Okay, so the first sentence, talk about keeping up with demand. So we say that.
I would rewrite it just complete. Okay. There is a market for carpet. That's built. The infrastructure is in place, but without moving carpet material, more carpet material
Heidi Sanborn, did you want to?
Yeah, a friendly amendment because I really agree with Commissioner Toyota. We've got to emphasize the situation we're being faced with here is after 10 years of the carpet stewardship program existing and 3 bills, 2 to fix this program in 2017 and 2019. We now have infrastructure we now have markets in California that we didn't have before, and we need to make sure they receive the feedstock in a timely manner to be financially viable. and that this is an urgent situation, something to that effect. But I agree, we did not have enough urgency and background in here. So thank you for bringing that up.
So is this looking closer to what you want?
Can they move up so I can see the whole, we can all see yeah, thanks. Carpet recycle markets infrastructure is in place. I don't know if we should say the infrastructure isn't, infrastructure is more developed. After 10 years, the carpet stewardship program has a market in California, or a greater market in California that needs, plural, to receive the material. Continued expansion of recycled carpet markets depends on expanded effective collection. We should maybe add to that, which is estimated at only 27%. And we could confirm that with CARE and others, but that was the number I was told. That means we've got about 74% still out there that isn't even being collected, and the recyclers are telling us they can't get it.
Yeah, I think that was from Eric Nelson's comments. So I assume it's 27% of this of generation. Okay. Okay. Well, we can try to verify that. Sorry. Okay. Are we all right with the as it is now, taking it forward? So, Kate, I will send you this.
Okay, and I can add that to the draft we were working on and send it to the committee.
Yeah, so we'll send around the full revised version of this and be prepared to transmit it to the commission.
Can we make sure that we send this immediately to the Carpet Advisory Committee for dissemination to everyone who's been trying to follow this, and any of the people who have commented on this proposal? I think it would be good to make sure everybody sees this quickly to give us feedback.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll let them know and put it in Google Drive. I'll send it to CARE as well. Okay. Let's set carpet aside. And I think the other outstanding recommendations we've been working on are kind of in two categories. One is, we already talked about the flooring. Yeah, I guess we should revisit that. What do we want to do now with this flooring discussion? Do we want to, Committee Member Sanborn, do you want to work up a language, Mr. Medrano?
I just don't think we have enough time to adequately put a proposal together from flooring. So I'd say we should table it.
Yeah, I don't think we want to take it forward today, but what's our strategy going forward? Do we want to revisit this with a proposal?
Yeah, I'd like to revisit it and say that this is a placeholder for the July report, because it's a bigger issue. It's going to take more digging into, and I think I'd love to invite some other flooring manufacturers and maybe even Department of Consumer Affairs and some others, because they might know the different flooring types. But I think we've got to hear more, and maybe even some like demolition, trades folks too that deal with these materials.
Yeah, actually, I went back to my screen, and this was kind of the set of recommendations where we stopped right after carpet was flooring, and with a note to try to pull together a committee presentation, and I guess we should think about who that might be. To me, it sounds like a broad field, but and I'm not even sure. So let's see what we can learn from our discussions with Consumer Affairs, and then we're going to get back to the next three materials: dimensional lumber, drywall, asphalt, shingles. I think Sarah Toyota and I have had some discussions about the approach, and I'm going to let her kind of bring us up to date. Propane cylinders off this list. That's already gone, right? We sent that up from I think the don't have track change. But propane cylinders is already addressed at the commission. And then for Ann Schneider's comment about glass, I did research on minimum content requirements. So I think we were talking about bringing forward a kind of a broader recommendation around glass. So maybe Ann Schneider and I should work on that together. I've done the research on minimum content and have the statutory language on that. There's still a question of CRV and then the reuse language, which I guess is similar to the CRV question. So Ann, is that okay with you?
Yes.
And then I wanted to, I was approached, I sit on a CRA technical council with Manuel Medrano and others that focuses on reuse and repair. And we've had a lot of discussions around different topics, but textiles just keep popping up. And I was, I'm interested in the market development aspects of reuse and repair businesses and trying to find information about that. So I think I'd like to add, if it doesn't conflict with what is being done by the subcommittee that Ann Schneider sits on, I think with Ted Ward, but maybe reuse and repair market development. You know, how many jobs, what the financial value, you know, what specific issues we saw. We received some information on the proposals received from Cow Recycle that might help us with that. So I think as we put up placeholders, I'm going to suggest that we be one of them. And then textiles, Ann Schneider, is that something that you're going to be talking about with Ted?
I'm running through my head. I think what Commissioner Ward and I were working on was more big picture and not anything specific, with the one exception of refillable wine or beverage bottles, and whether that comes out of the recycling committee. But because that one clearly can't go in a curbside container without rendering them no longer refillable. So I think it's great, John.
Yeah, there are a lot of market development issues around textiles.
Well,
Heidi,
I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember if it was this committee or what committee where we had someone speak about the additional permitting problems they had as a reuse business over a recycling business, which seemed really odd. And it was way back in August or July. And over the holidays, hopefully I'll get my notes all back in order to see if I made note to follow up on who said that. But it was somebody, and my memory is saying they were trying to site in an industrial park or a light industrial park and had more problems than any other business would have.
Okay. Well, let's add those two to the list, and then Heidi Sanborn.
Sure. When it comes to prioritizing, to me, the Source Reduction Waste Prevention Committee is really the place to take up the reuse and repair. Getting into market development of reuse and repair, to me, would come far below a lot of these other products like asphalt shingles and dimensional lumber and textiles. There's a lot of stuff out there that we need to get markets for, and focusing on developing markets for source reduction. A lot of this is local permitting stuff. It really isn't a whole lot that I know of that we could do at the state level, except maybe raise awareness, and maybe we could put some, if we can get some text from the reuse committee about that we could put in this first report for January about the intent that we have a problem with this, but we're looking into how to address it at the state level, or how to incentivize locals to look at this in their permitting structure. I guess I would rather not see that trump some of these big ticket volume items like textiles, which are huge volumes that need a market.
Yeah, I'm fine with us focusing on materials.
I'm confused. How are we all defining textiles?
Well, by Cal Recycle has a definition, I believe, and it's broad. It's, and it can it basically includes carpet, but we call carpet out by itself because it's so hard to handle and so unique and has its own program.
If I remember the textiles, it could include shoes.
Mm-hmm. If they're fabric. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
right. And if I remember textiles, it includes leather shoes and things.
Clothing, it depends on how you...
From the
Sorry, Ann, your broadband catches it.
Sorry. I'm away from the router. Let me turn the camera off. Sorry if I interrupted. I think what Ted and I have talked about is that the reuse infrastructure is as essential as the curbside collection system, but it isn't recognized as such. Still not coming in?
No, you're back.
You can't hear me?
No,
okay.
You're back.
I was just saying that the reuse infrastructure isn't... Okay. So you heard me say about essential businesses. So we've talked in terms of essential business, not in terms of specific market development actions. But let me go back to Ted. The reuse infrastructure isn't necessarily perceived as a subset of curbside. So we've got that problem.
Okay. Well, we'll coordinate this. And I think I read the right to repair item that was put forward to the commission, and it was basically a reiteration of the legislation that has failed to be heard over the last couple of years. So I think there's a lot more depth that we might bring, but I don't know how to do that. And I appreciate your comments, Heidi, about not focusing on what's being focused on by the other work group, but how do we integrate that? How do we bring the knowledge that we might have about market development topics into work that's being done by another working group?
Can we invite Commissioner Ward to our next meeting? If you think that there is, I'm sorry, I did my asterisk through the chair. Ted and I met with a couple of staff members at different agencies, and then heard from a repair specialist. And that's where the language for the right to repair evolved from. So if it's similar to a bill that's already failed, maybe that's part of the education. But I like the idea of it coming through this committee. If you want it to come through this committee, can't we do that, Chair Sanborn? Just by asking that the Waste Prevention Committee to come and bring the right to repair here?
again, through the chair, yes. But I guess, again, this is about priorities in the largest volume. We're trying to expedite the focus on getting to 75% in the curbside recycling system and developing the markets. We've got some big ticket items on this list. Asphalt shingles is right at the top for me. It's petroleum based. It's a large volume. It's basically a clean stream. It's something we could really work on and make some serious headway, possibly also gypsum, textiles. I guess I think we need to prioritize what we focus on based on that.
I think part of the problem is, the obstacles around Bagley-Keene, where, in another circumstance, I'd just call Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Schneider, but I can't do that, right? And so, something's going to go forward to the commission that I think we could enhance. And so, and it is, the issue there is exploding batteries and, the inability of people to remove batteries, whether you're a recycler or the owner of a cell phone, and you can't remove your battery safely, then it ends up somewhere that causes problems. So it's not a big ticket item like construction material. It's not a big volume item, but it's one of those putting out the fire items. So, and I see Kate, you have. Do we have a comment, Kate?
It's not a comment. I just wanted to clarify the definition for textiles and cow recycle, if that would be helpful. It means made of thread, yarn, fabric, or cloth. Examples include clothes, fabric trimmings, draperies, and all natural synthetic cloth fibers. This waste type does not include cloth-covered furniture, mattresses, leather shoes, leather bags, or leather belts. That's on the textiles website at Cow Recycle I just found. So just wanted to add that.
Thank you. And
I think now that the right to repair draft has been published on our working area, couldn't any member comment on that? Is that within Bagley-Keene? Or does it have to be commented at a meeting? If not, I can tell you, John, I heard about batteries, and I can go back and look at it and see if we can make batteries pop out on items. I think we were thinking a lot in terms of brown goods, white goods, and the amount of brown goods I've got stuck in bags downstairs waiting to figure out where to go. For a lot of our residents, those brown goods, hair dryers, small appliances are going straight into the garbage can.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the answer to good point. Can I?
Chair Sanborn,
Can I post comments around the proposal?
Question is, can you propose comments around the proposal?
Yeah, there's proposed language on right to repair. Can a commissioner go in and take a proposal and?
Yes, I mean, the way to do it transparently is you can download any proposal, track your changes, and then during the commission meeting, we can pull that up and show your screen if you have exact track changes, but we're not allowed to have these sub conversations on the policy that could break a quorum, especially on a two-person.
Yeah, actually more than two people can't, right. I couldn't discuss it basically because Ann and Ted have already discussed it. So there right. Can't be another discussion around that. Although we could discuss it here or at the commission. So.
Correct.
Okay, I'll mark it up. Yeah, and just my impression, Ann, was that it was the staff, it was the legislative analysis and the language from the prior bill. But I'll go back and look at it more carefully. So, and be prepared, I guess, at the commission to introduce some ideas.
I thought it might have gone last time, so possibly it's going to go next time.
Yeah, it didn't. It wasn't heard. I would have remembered it.
Yeah, no, it was not heard. Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll hold in abeyance any discussion around reuse and repair market development issues, and the main topics. And Sarah Toyota's been waiting patiently. I think the main topics that we want to move forward are around construction demolition material. I noticed in the 2018 waste characterization that the landfill construction and demolition material comprised 30% of landfill materials in California. And so it's a big topic. Sarah, you want to? I brought up the protocol that you posted, so if you'd like, I can show that on the screen.
No, let's just talk about some of the things first before we get to that. You're right; it is a big topic. We can take them one at a time if you like. Heidi, you brought up asphalt shingles, so maybe we can start there. From what I've first of all, though, John and I did a lot of talking with folks from the Construction and Demolition Recycling Association. It's a national association, and they have a lot of good information on pretty much everything. They even have a section on markets. So they were really helpful in getting us some information on this. Asphalt Shingles has also its own website, plus they talk about them at this association as well. And they are used in a lot of places in the roads, basically recycled into the roadways. And there's a couple stories that I heard from several people that I talked to that this was something that was up and coming. Something happened that, you know, there has to be a specific mix, obviously, of the recycled material with the regular material. And that standard has not been set. And as they were doing some pilot programs, and I guess they did get through some pilot programs that worked, they came to a point where there was an issue with someone mixing too much, say, of the shingle material in with the regular material, and there were issues with that. And at that point, what I understand is that the entire program shut down. But they were able to build the grinders, to create the material. I mean, they were ready to go, and the market is there. But Caltrans did not put it into their standards, so it can't be used on all Caltrans projects. It can't be used on a wide scale. And until that happens, that market is pretty much closed off. And CalRecycle, I give them all the credit for that, because if you go to the CalRecycle website and look up asphalt shingles, they have this entire thing outlined. I mean, not the background necessarily, but they have the list of other states that use this in their roadways, and then they have specifications that basically they've outlined that Caltrans needs to put that into their specifications to be widely used. So in 1997, they sent to Caltrans cost-benefit analysis and all this information about trying to get it that would help them move forward with getting it into their specifications. And Caltrans didn't do it. And this is all on their website. And then they talk about the Green Book and the procedure of getting these into their Green Book, into the Green, the Green Book specifications, because that would be another way to do it. So Caltrans or CalRecycle did their diligence, and they sent the information, but it was a long time ago, 1997 or so. I'm sure the cost-benefit analysis is no more helpful today, but the official response on the CalRecycle website is that Caltrans responded to the proposal dated in 1997, indicating that Caltrans is not interested in evaluating the shingles in 8C at this time. So the prior information is there. I mean, it's outdated. So the question is, I mean, this is, I think, a good market, but I don't know whether we suggest that they redo it all. It's a possibility that that's the right way to go, because when I was talking to the folks, they were like, well, we used to talk to this guy or that guy, and they're all retired. So the people who were making these decisions back then aren't there anymore. But if there's a pervasive reason within Caltrans not to do this, then that would still be there. But I don't know what that is. There wasn't a clear reason why. Caltrans is the one connection that I guess I haven't made yet, and I can't find anybody there who knows about this history, but it's outlined. It's there, this one market, not necessarily anything else, but it's a good market for asphalt shingles. but the diligence was done many years ago. So I guess my question is, I have a lot of information, but not a whole lot of answers. So I don't know if the recommendation could be redo it all, or maybe I just take a little more time and knock on some more doors at Caltrans and see if I can't understand what's going on with that. Or maybe we could get Caltrans to come and talk to us about why.
Heidi wanted to comment.
Thanks for that, Commissioner Toyota. That's very helpful. And it's not uncommon. We've heard these problems trying to get information out of the large agencies has been challenging. And one of the reasons why I was excited to get one of our first recommendations in the commission report to be improving our state agency buy recycled campaign, because this is one product category where a single state agency can have a huge impact on the market. I think maybe if you're okay with it, as the chair of the commission, I could, or John, maybe you could do it as the chair of this committee, is simply request, and maybe it's through Cal Recycle. We can ask Cal Recycle to do it, or we can just ask through the commission directly of Caltrans top leadership that we would like to understand what's happening with asphalt shingles use in roadways, because we have a huge need to close the loop on this material category, and we're unclear on why this hasn't been happening, and what could be done to incentivize it and get it working. Because that could be a single, it's a nice little chokehold where it's a one agency really could control almost the entire market for these.
I think Committee Member Toyota and I had planned to have a call with Cal Recycle generally once we've held this discussion, and circle back with them with follow-up. So that would be one. And since Cal Recycle does have the tire recycling program, and rubberized asphalt is part of that program, they probably have a good contact through there at Caltrans. So yeah, we'll be glad to take, I think with, as long as Sarah Toyota is okay with it, we'll put that on our to-do list.
Yeah, Caltrans is a missing link, one way or another, whether it's you and I or in this committee. We need to talk to them because everything else has been done.
Yeah. And I think originally this came to our attention from comments from Michael Gross, and his specific suggestion was to do just a small scale pilot program, because as Committee Member Toyota said, this was tried a while back, but the mix apparently exceeded what was the recommended maximum content, and so there was a failure in the asphalt, and probably everything was abandoned at that point. So, just a reminder that was the initial discussion, was start small and try to demonstrate that this actually would work in an isolated area. Mr. Medrano.
I think Commissioner Schneider had her hand up before me.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and
I'm okay. Just a comment. If we're only looking at shingles, is the world for recycled tires and rubberized asphalt, is that pretty much a confirmed and steady market now? Because if we could get Caltrans to whichever meeting, the full commission or market development, that would be great to get an update on that one too at the same time. And the San Francisco Chronicle over the weekend published an article about, from the fire department's perspective, of do not use wood mulch, and because of the fire danger, which I haven't read the full article yet, but that scares me because that's also a very big market for organics. So maybe bringing Caltrans in for everything could be really helpful.
Yeah, we can hold that discussion, I think, as part of our follow-up with Cal Recycle. My understanding on rubberized asphalt is that it's really up to each Caltrans region, but there's a lot more adoption of that than there have been in the past, but probably not to the level of Arizona, for example.
I actually am very exciting the managed lane program that's happening here on 101. When they finish, they are repaving all 12 lanes with rubberized asphalt. And as a noise absorber, I'm really excited. But they don't advertise it. They don't talk about it. To me, it's a huge win.
Okay, well, we'll get an update on rack at the same time. Mr. Medrano?
So I have a question for Commissioner Toyota. In your research, did you find out how much of the asphalt shingles are we producing in California via the industry groups? Because if some of that information is over a decade old, it might need to be updated in order to give it a lot more urgency. I'm sure that we're producing a lot more of this material now.
Agreed. And I don't have an exact number for you, but I will ask them. But you're right. You're right. I think that updating the information will add the urgency for sure, because for sure there's a lot more than there was then. Thank you.
Thanks.
We should see if it's a category in the waste characterization. Maybe Kate could point us in that direction. It's one of her topic areas. But I can give a briefing on drywall. I was referred to Amanda Kaminsky, who seems to be one of the most knowledgeable people about recycled drywall. She told me there are actually drywall manufacturers in the Bay Area who are interested in incorporating recycled drywall, but they're focused on the product that they manufacture. So there's a conception that each manufacturer of drywall uses a slightly different mix, and so if they want to recycle the drywall back into their product, that there needs to be a control. They would take back their own material, but not someone else's, which complicates things. However, according to Ms. Kaminsky, there is at least one manufacturer up in the Northwest in Washington State that uses, I want to say 23% recycled content, irrespective of source. So there's some indication that concern is not really as much a technical issue as a marketing issue. But so it's just a couple of thoughts. Washington State bans disposal because of the moisture content that ends up in their landfills during the operating phase, and the off-gassing of drywall with sulfur oxides that come up from drywall once it gets wet. And so because of that, there's a lot more activity around recycling the drywall up there. So I think, we could look at what's occurring and maybe address some of these technical issues. Drywall, in my view, is a lot like carpet because most of the drywall gets hung by professional installers. That's what they do all day long. They buy drywall and they install drywall. They remove old drywall. They take off their cuts. And so sourcing it is real similar to sourcing carpet, where it's the professional installers who handle most of the material. And so keeping it clean, getting it back to the source, seems viable. What I don't know, and I think Committee Member Toyota and I should follow up, is how extensive a network of drywall manufacturing is in California. My impression is it's fairly decentralized, and there are outlets for that. So the possibility of trying to drive markets for clean recycled drywall, seems to be viable, and I think it's something else that we should be pursuing. I have a long list of resources that Ms. Kaminsky shared with me. So if I haven't already, Sarah, I'll forward that message to you, and we can start looking at that as a second item. I did a little bit of research on dimensional lumber. Mr. Medrano?
Will we want to take the approach by material type when it comes to C&D, or do we want to take a overall waste stream approach with that, being that it's such a big item, percentage in our waste stream in California?
I mean, there are some general topics, but I suspect at some point we need to get material specific. But Toyota, what do you think?
That is a really good question, and I go back, as I look into this, I go back and forth with that all the time. But there are some general things, as Chair Davis said, like, for instance, a certification process for C&D material that we can talk about later, but I think is really important to put forward toward to the commission at some point. The other thing is something that I understood from James Slattery, who is a recycling specialist for the city and county of San Francisco. And he was really concerned about the 65% diversion issue, because basically what he said was CalRecycle should focus more on recycling 100% of what is recyclable versus, and then finding out what is not, and then working on how do you divert those materials instead of just saying a blanket percentage amount. And this makes a lot of sense to me, because it's one of the things that I think drives the somewhat questionable numbers on a lot of the recycling, especially, we'll stick to C&D, especially in C&D, that I've heard across the board, that it's just a little, that there should be a third-party certification to make sure everything is going where it's supposed to be. On the other hand, when CalRecycle sets these diversion rates at percentages like they are now, then we run into the problem of a commission of saying, well, you can't recycle this or move this, and then we can't hit the rate. But from a market perspective, if CalRecycle understood this is recyclable, this can be minimal content, this can do, these are the diversion options. If we blanket that, you either do a diversion option and you show third-party certification that you're doing it, then that would be, in my mind, the blanket C&D kind of proposal. And then whatever is going to the landfill, CalRecycle would have to understand what that is, have to target their resources to how do we get markets for those things, and then possibly do EPR for what's going into the landfill, but to know it. And that, instead of saying you have to, you can take back this material, so you must do minimum content. You can take this to Caltrans, so you must take it to Caltrans. To say, these are your options, you need to divert it from the landfill one of these ways, or you're going to have to pay into the program. That's the only blanket that I can see that would work. Otherwise, they are literally, they each have specific markets. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, I was going to amplify on what you're saying, but we've got a public comment, and Ann Schneider wanted to comment. So, Ann, why don't you go first, and then we'll take a public comment.
Sorry, my computer is telling me I am having problems. I apologize for interrupting people. I do get that delay. My one comment would be on third-party verification. How would that work with the reuse infrastructure? Even if you just look at it through how would dimensional lumber work? Because that industry operates, it doesn't operate by weight.
That is a problem because...
Sorry, go ahead.
You know, I'm going to ask you, if you have some time to look at the certification process protocol that Chair Davis did put into the folder today. We're not going to have a lot of time to talk about it today, but if you would look at it, it does have some verbiage there on repair and reuse. I don't know if I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, actually.
Excellent, will do.
This protocol, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, this has been around for a while, and I think, is this Stephen Ventillo's?
Yeah, I remember it going back, golly, to the 90s, doesn't it? I believe. Yeah, but how much it's actually being used is curious.
It's at this point, it's not used very much. One, because from what I understand, it takes significant staff time to pull in the information that they need to verify, to do the verification, basically, and that's a problem. It's not super expensive, but it costs they charge between $7,000 and $8,000 to certify your company. And also, it's not mandated. I mean, the issue is that a lot of things aren't going where they're supposed to go to, and so having a protocol like this, or without mandating it isn't going to be very popular. There's no incentive to do the right thing in this necessarily in this in just the way things stand right now. So, but what I do like about this is that it has been used, and at least in some facilities. And if you scroll to the end, it looks like it was pretty well vetted at the time by a lot of different industry. And it is out there. There are in San Jose, I guess there were a couple of facilities that did use this protocol, and it's done. And so not having to redo it is something that I do appreciate. So I wanted to bring it up. I don't know if it's as simple, probably not, as just adopting it, but it is a standard that's out there, and I have heard across the board under C&D and their projects that they really need third-party certification, that they really do.
So we have
Commissioner
we have
Toyota.
public
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, if I could, I'm thinking back, again, having used to be a staffer at the city of San Jose who set up the licensing program for independent service providers. There may have been a process in place in San Jose that made it more adoptable. Plus, San Jose has the 4 landfills that handle most of the waste from the area. So there's a little control in there, but I will definitely go through that. Chair Toyota, and see if we can pull it up. I'm thinking of any of the little reuse businesses for construction materials, what $8,000 might mean to them. It may not be significant to Zanker Road, but it could be very significant to.
Yeah, I think this procedure was developed in anticipation that some agencies who require the recycling of construction materials would want to have verification that the material is actually being recycled as stated, not just delivered to a facility. So that's kind of where it came from. But we have a public comment, Kim.
Yes, we have 2 public comments. There's one on C&D I'll read now. There is another on textile reuse and repair. Maybe we'll wait till C&D is over if you prefer. So the comment on C&D is from Gail Bryce. One of the major problems with securing enough post-consumer carpet for processing is that the material is included in CalRecycle's definition of C&D, and there's no motivation to keep this material out of landfills because the C&D recycling requirements can be met without recycling the carpet. The inclusion of carpet in C&D was done prior to the passage of the carpet stewardship program. It would be very helpful if carpet was no longer considered C&D and those generating C&D waste were required to separate the material from the disposal bins, which would give the collectors/sorters a better chance of securing this material for the carpet program.
Okay. Heidi, you wanted to say something?
Because we're talking about the proposals, I think it's okay to respond to this. Because I was looking actually at the waste comp study, the most recent one, and I was noticing the same thing, except they did call out carpet here under inerts and other, and they said that the estimated percent is 1.3% of the waste stream, which is down by 0.3% and still 119,000 tons. So it's still a lot out there to get, but it does look like on the 2018 waste comp, they did separate it. And once the stewardship law goes into play, it's a totally separate animal as far as the requirements that CalRecycle has. So I'm not sure I understand that part of the comment, but.
I think it relates somewhat to what Sarah Toyota mentioned. That you've got this overall, like Cal Green says, 65%. Of a job site, well, that's going to focus on the heavy inert material. You get to 65% by adding up concrete, wood. You don't necessarily get to 65% with ceiling tiles and carpet and drywall cuts, and so it hinders the ability to focus on individual materials because the focus is on this kind of comprehensive overall programs. And but that, you know, I've heard that for years, particularly from people who do interior work and pull out light material, that it's more beneficial to just go in and knock down the building than to remove fixtures that don't have much weight. And so, yeah, I think it's something we definitely need to kind of unpack and talk about, particularly when it affects something like carpet and the removal of carpet that has its own programs. So, Mr. Medrano.
So the reason for my question to Commissioner Toyota was because you know, as some of our regions are going through a building boom, and the self-haul requirement that we have to track these folks, we're looking at our numbers exploding throughout the state with the collection and disposal amounts. In some of our cities, we're looking at.
I can't hear him.
You can't hear me?
I can hear.
Oh, maybe it was my internet. Sorry.
Oh, so in some cases, we're having the same amount of disposal that we do with our franchise waste versus our self-haul waste. And a lot of it is attributed to self-haul from construction sites that are C&D, that usually it's C&D material that's really not going to a facility. It's going to just landfill disposal. Whether we have C&D recycling ordinances, sometimes it just escapes that and it goes into landfill disposal. So that's what was the concern about maybe making it or considering if we were to take a overall material approach or a single or a single material approach. So I know we really don't have time for this until probably the July recommendation, but I know there's items like the asphalt shingles that probably we could target ahead of time. So just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, clearly, if we're going to have something for July, we need to start working on it. So, and this is, I think, this is going to be a priority, you know, given the extent of the impact on the disposal stream kind of issues that have been raised today. So, and just as someone who is involved in a not highly urbanized area, you know, we've been trying to find a way to justify building improved construction material recycling sites. But when construction activity is sporadic and unpredictable, you know, you end up with the potential of having a lot of some capital invested with very little use. And so it becomes, you know, more difficult as you move into the rural areas. So just something else for us to think about as we grapple with it, that what works in the urbanized coastal communities may not work across the rest of the state. So, okay. Well, this has been a good discussion. Anybody want to continue? If not, we can try to wrap up early. All right. So we will, Commissioner Toyota and I will be following up on C&D, and it'll become, I think, a topic going forward. Commissioner Sanborn, I think, are you gonna work up a flooring language? Do you want a subcommittee for that, or how do you want to proceed?
I'm sorry. Do I want for what now?
For the flooring, on all flooring.
Oh, flooring language. Oh, for all flooring?
Yeah.
I think that's more of a discussion we're starting. So maybe you and I can talk about how to bring it back to the committee and the commission, and who we need to invite, and maybe a process to get some sort of decision made before July.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll do our follow-up with Consumer Affairs and then look at how we go forward there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Sarah,
okay.
Yeah, just if you wanted to, I contacted Amy Costello of Armstrong Flooring, and you may want to give her a call also, because they're the ones that do the take back for the vinyl flooring. So she can tell you all about her program and about whether that's expandable to the rest of the industry as well. And
yeah, we gave them an award for that program. They've been real leaders in that space. So I know Amy, and I'm happy to talk to her again. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it would be good to hear. Be good to hear success stories to build upon.
Yeah. And John, can I add to this discussion on C&D one thing, or the which products to target? When I was looking at the waste characterization study, I was shocked to see that diapers and sanitary products are now up to 6.3% of the waste disposed. This is a huge and growing market, and I think that is something that maybe should be on the agenda for at some point, and just not forgetting it. But that's larger than asphalt shingles. That's larger than carpet. I mean, that's a big volume item that's usually different multi-materials, and there's no program for them. But I think that industry has to really start looking at what they're going to do, because that's a lot, 6.3%.
I was hoping that would go to organics, Mr. Potash.
They've got a lot of chemicals and yeah.
Diapers.
Yeah, we can. I think the answer is going to be we don't want it either. So
yeah, we get them. We get them at the birth. We get them at.
Maybe that's something Ted and I could take up and propose some ideas, since it's kind of a special waste, kind of.
Yeah, well, let's put it on here and see.
Okay.
I've always thought that as we narrow down what ends up in landfills, those products are always going to be on that declining list, along with the old tennis balls. And Snyder, Manuel, I think Ann was first.
Just anecdotal. We home hospiced my dad, and he had terminal bladder and colon cancer. And I can tell you, we went from a 20-yard can that rarely filled to a 96-gallon can a week, or cart a week. So it's a whole range of adult incontinent products and bed pads and things like that. It was a real eye-opener of just how much is generated. And with COVID, we're going to be encouraging more seniors to be staying at home as opposed to convalescent hospitals. So more of that material, rather than coming through a commercial pathway, will become a residential pathway. So it was staggering how much we went through. And being the former reuse chair, it was heartbreaking too, but oh my gosh, there's nothing else you can do.
So for
the next commission meeting.
I think this is a great opportunity to address some of the fiber-only sanitary products. Big market development opportunity there to learn how much recycled content they're really using, at least with the material being sold in the state. So really support us looking at this material. I mean, I know that's something that organics probably doesn't want in there, in not only the commission, but their subcommittee, but also on the material and in management of the material at organics facilities. But I think for the market development, at least for the fiber only products, I think it's a great opportunity to maybe have some recycled content requirement. So.
If anybody has the opportunity to do some research, if we can find maybe some product manufacturers who are trying to overcome these issues, and make a great presentation.
I could volunteer to outreach to bread biggers and maybe get some information on at least California manufacturers.
Okay, let's bring it back on. We'll continue. I'll start structuring the agenda around these topics now. You know, we had this list that kind of evolved into narrative proposals, but now we're back to the list. So we'll structure the agenda with a little more focus on materials, which I think should help with the public as well. And we have a public comment.
Yes, Chair Davis, since you're moving on, read the public comment about textiles. It was from Joanne Brash at California Product Stewardship Council. The California Product Stewardship Council supports the prioritization of market development for textile reuse. There have been several recent publications showing the rapid increase of the reuse commerce and the increasing cost to sort and grade unwanted textiles. We have received more calls from thrift stores in the last 6 months asking for help with the volume of not only textiles, but also all home goods, glass, ceramics, plastic, that are not selling and being landfilled or dumped on other thrift stores. In a recent textile characterization study, CPSC found that most of the unwanted clothing was usable without major modifications needed, but the cost to sort from multiple streams, storage for economies of scale, and transportation to the next market were all barriers to success for thrift stores to become more effective centers for reuse, which comes with inevitable recycling and disposal for unusable goods.
Great. So I think we're ready to move to the end of the agenda, which begins with the discussion of any data request or review. I don't believe we had any new data submitted, and I'm not sure we've really formulated data requests for Heidi.
I think we asked CalRecycle if there was any way that they had the authority to do
Right.
some of the carpet things that were not legislative, if they had the authority or they thought that we needed legislation to accomplish some of the things we had on our list. That was the only.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. And I think we captured that. There was also an outstanding request on the existing C&D infrastructure. Kate, have we heard back on that?
Yes, folks have gotten back to me. I'm trying to collect and put that together. Short story, we don't have great data outside of, oh my gosh, Swiss, our online database for registered C&D facilities. We do not have any tracking mechanisms for like reuse, thrift stores, smaller scale facilities. I can put that in a much more eloquent little brief that I can publish, sorry, but it doesn't look like there's much information on that, but I will try to put something together and get it to all of you shortly and post on the public notice.
Okay. Well, if you can hear me, it looks like my screen is frozen.
We can hear you.
I may turn my camera off. It's not a very flattering view. Okay, so that's it on data requests. So let's talk about our next meeting. Somebody, Heidi, is that you? Did you just ask to comment, or did I?
No, that was done already.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Do we want to continue on Monday mornings? That's, I guess, question number one. It's not, it works fine for me, but I know it is a Monday morning, and we have not scheduled anything remaining in December, so we would be back January. I don't have any. We didn't schedule past December is what happened. So do we want to continue on the same schedule or look at something else? But while you ponder that, Kate, we have another comment.
Yes, we have a comment from Gail Bryce. Did I miss something? When it comes to materials you are addressing, does it include OCC, old corrugated cardboard, i.e. the million of boxes coming into our homes? I remember the committee noting the possible need for a huge paper pulping mill for California, which would cost over $300 million, and the fact that much of this new material is now being exported for recycling. Are any other actions underway regarding this material? That's been published.
Yeah, I'd prefer that to recycling committee, I think, and the paper pulping was mentioned as a focus on our CalRecycle recommendation, which is yet to be heard at the committee, or at the commission, I mean. So that's going forward. Ann Schneider.
Thank you, Chair. I've gotten one or two emails from generally community members, not industry members, talking about Amazon box reuse and the program to push Amazon to take shipping boxes back, probably other packaging material, but those. And if that belongs in recycling, I will take it off
I think they have a specific recommendation.
the waste prevention side. It's been a hard looking a specific industry.
I'm pretty certain that the recycling committee is bringing forward a recommendation.
With a reuse component? Sure.
I don't know the content of it. I haven't seen it.
Chair Sanborn, direction, I'm happy to go with whatever direction. None of us need more on our to-do list, but there is that movement to try to get shippers to be part of a reuse program with some form, I would imagine, of a take-back program.
My understanding is the recycling committee has a proposal about Amazon coming. I had to miss the meeting Friday, so I don't know if they did cover it, and we do have something coming to us on the 16th. If anybody else is on the recycling committee, let us know. But if it comes and it doesn't have a reuse component, then I think we can discuss that as a commission without having to go back to the reuse committee.
Excellent.
That could be a commission discussion in public. Yeah.
Thank you.
So look for that on the recycling committee drive and the commission drive. So back on meeting schedule, if we're going to continue on Monday mornings, which is fine with me, I'd suggest we do it on the second and fourth Mondays. It's been really difficult to have a committee meeting on Monday and then prepare documents and get them to the commission on Wednesdays. So doing it on the second and fourth would be a lot better for me, and I think for some of our other schedules as well. So we were kind of trying to keep up with the flow of things initially, but and we can take a breath. So, Mr. Medrano?
Yes, I vote yes on that proposal.
Second and fourth. Okay. So second and fourth Mondays, 9 a.m., bright and early Monday morning. Okay, we'll stay with Mondays, but move things to the second and fourth. I think we have a slate of agenda items from our discussion, some focus. So we'll start digging in more material. We worked through kind of the structural issues, Cal Recycle, Cal EPA, GoBiz, State Agency by Recycle, and now it'll be an opportunity to get more into materials. Heidi?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So that means I think that would we ask Cal Recycle to send calendar invitations, or one of us send it to each other for the entire next year, second and fourth Mondays, to make sure that's...
I think that's fine within Bagley-Keene. I'll go ahead and put it on my calendar and invite all of you.
I think the staff had been sending them out to us, though.
Yeah, we're getting them, but we're not getting them on that reoccurring basis. Is that right,
Oh.
Kate? You send it on the
I'm sorry,
meeting.
that
day.
can be done. That can be. I can do
That'd be
recurring.
fabulous.
Okay.
I do
That'd
have to
be
check.
perfect.
I have to check, go through the channels just to make sure the dates are fine. And then I can send those and get those scheduled. So I will be in contact, but I can, yes.
Okay. So if there's an issue with the dates, I'll announce that at the commission. And
Okay.
to me, this is a procedural. We're not really talking about.
Yeah. And when would this start? Or I'm sorry, are you getting to when
January.
your next one?
Yeah,
Okay.
second Monday in January. Okay. And then if you could also find out, Kate, if the links for the meeting and the phone-in numbers, if those remain the same, maybe for our calendar purposes, those could go in the calendar invitation as well.
Absolutely.
Make it cleaner. All right. Anything else?
Chair Davis, we did go past discussion and response to previous public comments. If there's anything you would like to discuss, or if we...
I think we're pretty caught up. I will ask again if you want to enter any comments that we've received. There is a master list of those comments. I've gone through them, although I haven't gone through them recently. So, but I'll go through them, and if I feel that we've missed responding, either directly or indirectly, make sure to call those out at our next meeting. But we've done a pretty good job keeping up. But you know, we were getting comments back in September that were hard to track. So I'll make sure we go through. But I think we're pretty good shape. And we have Ann Schneider and Heidi.
Chair Davis, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. So we've been on a first and third. We're moving to a second and fourth. When is our next meeting?
Second Monday of January, which would be the 11th.
Okay, so we're not having another December meeting then.
No, we
okay, very good.
We compressed our schedule to meet today. Normally we would have met next week, and that would have been our last meeting. So we are finished as a
thank you
committee into January. Heidi?
Yeah, just to remind everybody on the scheduling that it's really important that especially this committee read word for word every section, every word that's in the final draft report that's going to go to the legislature January 1st, the recommendations that came from this committee, so that we're all very, very comfortable, that we're very proud to put our names on that. And if you have any changes, just bring them to the meeting on the 16th. And it'd be probably a really good idea to have track changes that we could put on the screen and share your screen if we want to refine anything, because the only last bite at that's really the last day we have to change the language, because it has to be adopted as final the 2 days later on the 18th.
And just to clarify, I have been meaning to go in and
just make sure you get in there.
I think there's also a place to have items to come forward in July, so we've kind of addressed that today. But I do intend to go through and mark up. I know the SABRAC stuff went forward with some numbering that was wrong, and make sure to get that corrected. I think what we talked about at the commission, though, was that each of us would make our edits and then send that to Mr. Ward, or are we going to try to go through those edits at the commission? I'm trying to recall that. That's
actually a fine idea. Is you can take your track changes and you can email them to Ted or I, and we can upload them, and we'll label them as, you know, track changes from Commissioner so-and-so. And then that way everybody's track changes are public, and we can all review them together and change the document live, because that really will be our last chance to change it. Because on the 18th, it's really just the final stamp of approval.
Yeah, I think we wanted to try to get them in earlier. So, okay, everybody take a look at it. I will be taking a look at it for sure. Make sure that our documents are correct in there. Kate?
Yes, just because I help facilitate the recycling committee, they did discuss last Friday the design for recyclability e-commerce draft. The word reuse does not appear in that proposal. It does not, in this current form as discussed on Friday, consider reuse. So just FYI.
And when we talk about reuse, I'm going to bring up ice packs. Those cold pack things. I seem to have a lifetime supply, or multiple lifetimes. All right, we're 5 minutes early, or 6 minutes early. So if there's no further business, we will adjourn.
John?
Yes.
I'm sorry, the cold pack item, because we've got somebody on organics here, don't we, Mr. Patashner? Could that be something that would fit into the food recovery program, food reuse? I hadn't thought about it before.
I think it's getting it from your house to somebody who might want it. Just
and also what's in it, because some of them have chemicals.
Definitely what's in it.
Yeah,
a lot of chemicals in it.
I'd rather see something filled with ice that you could puncture. Use dry ice.
And then
Anyway,
recycle the film.
Yeah. So, well,
Okay.
just a thought.
I just want to thank you, Chair, for chairing this committee because I know it takes a lot of time. So thank you for doing the first 6 months of this. We really appreciate it.
I got through 6 months. We'll see. Maybe I'll put that on the agenda. All right. Well, let's carry on, everyone. See you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Keep
next
safe,
week.
you guys.
You too.